Hey guys, this is episode 2 of Ask a Trainer, and we are jumping in with some questions that were asked all month long. If you're watching the live, go ahead and drop us a hello, and we can see your comments and we'll pull them up. If you've got any questions, put the letter Q with a little semicolon or colon. Which one is it? Is it the
colon.
the colon? Put the letter Q and we'll be able to answer those questions live. So I am Yo, and we've got Julie here, and together we are Canine Learning Academy. We're streaming live into our student community as well as on our YouTube channel, in which, if you need to watch the recording a little bit later on the YouTube channel, you'll have chapters. So you can just fast forward to exactly the question that you have. So welcome. How are you doing, Julie?
Good. Busy this time of year. We've got a lot of new puppies and new clients, and I'm really excited I even got some good questions sent directly to me today.
Good.
So, if you haven't already put those in the comment section, I asked Davey. He always has some really great questions for us, but he sent a really good one about crating your dog. So we can get into that whenever we have a second.
Yeah, I don't see any of the questions on Facebook. So I pulled the questions from, we got a couple on email. So let's go through the questions that we currently have. If you're watching live, you can jump in anytime. We've got somebody that said, I'm here. Awesome. Wherever you're watching this, there's a little comment of text. And if you click the link that says click here, it'll allow us to see who this is. But glad you're here. And we will get started. Let's see. So I've got the first question I have is around potty training. So there's 2 potty training questions. So the first one is older dog, accidents in the home. The dog is small. This was during the rain and hail storm, apparently, that we had. The parents work all day long and they're wanting to know what to do. So I did ask some preliminary questions. The questions I had is, how old is old? Is this all of a sudden? How long is long? How long are you leaving your dog? And what was the dynamic of the home? So it is 2-story home, downtown Huntington, senior dog, so over 10 years old. It's been happening, so it's not something that's all of a sudden. So it's a learned behavior because it's been happening for a while. So I asked, do you think you know why your dog is not able, to go out and tell you, do you have a marker and all of that? So let's go through as if we were taking this client and we're talking to them on the phone, Julie. So what's kind of the first thing after we've asked questions that we explain to them as far as understanding why there could be all of a sudden accidents for a senior dog?
Yeah, so number 1 is a vet check. We always want to check to make sure that there's not a UTI or some kind of kidney or liver infection. You can do that with a simple blood work at your vet, and a lot of vets have a senior blood panel specifically for that reason, but always want to get the medical stuff out of the way first, so then we can identify if it's something that we can change or if it's something that we have to medicate for.
Awesome. And what are some of the signs of a UTI?
That's a really good question. Some people don't realize it. It's a lot like a human UTI. So if you just took your dog out and you guys went on a walk and they just did 3 or 4 potties, and then they come in and have, just a little quarter spot or even just a really tiny potty, a lot of times it's because they're peeing more frequently or they feel like they need to pee more frequently. So they'll just drop wherever they are. Sometimes they look guilty or a little, kind of scared because it is painful. They might even whine or squeak when it happens because it's uncomfortable. And you might notice a difference in their personality. They may be zooming around the house. They may be biting and barking like they're not usually. we see this a lot in
Yeah,
older
could be.
humans as well. A UTI can be, change their whole brain chemistry. So, especially for a senior dog, it may be something like, "Wow, my dog's just not acting like himself today." That would be when I would, if they're having accidents and acting, not really like their regular self, vet check for a UTI first.
Good. That's good information. So if you see something happening and you're thinking all of a sudden,
Right,
think vet check. Love
right.
it. All right. So how do we go ahead and change from going potty all over the house to having a designated spot? So typically we start talking about first thing is before we even put together a plan is management. And management means how can we prevent this from happening? Now, for a senior dog, and it's a two-story home and there was bad weather and things like that, I would say being able to confine or contain that dog so that we can at least not let that dog practice going to the spot that that dog wants to go to. So setting up a barrier and blocking off the house, the part of the house where your dog is going out to go to the bathroom is number one. This way, we can contain the area. We can also set the dog up for success by putting ourselves on a timer and bringing the dog out to the designated potty area.
Yeah, I
Anything else you want to add to that?
say, yeah, absolutely. Go, even no matter what age your dog is, if they were previously good at their potty station and now they're not, go back to puppy protocol, meaning you're going to be supervising. That's part of the management, is we want to keep a really close eye so that you can start to figure out if there's a signal, if it's happening out of nowhere, if they're trying to paw at the door and maybe you just didn't see or you didn't hear them. That's the issue, especially with a senior dog, is once they've got to go right away. And so they may not have time to make it all the way downstairs and to the door and outside. And so keeping a really, really close eye if you're able to, or having someone else come and watch your dog to, if you're working or you're out of the house.
Yeah, perfect. And as far as training plan goes, it's like what do we do from there? Training plan wise, there's lots of options. So the most recent option that I did, I'm just going to put training plan. Okay, the most recent option I did for Jen's dogs, two senior dogs, is we changed the potty area. Instead of teaching the dogs how to ring a bell or open up a door or out a doggy door in downtown Huntington, there is a coyote infested, it's like really high coyote area. It's also in Huntington, there's one of the highest number of dogs that run away because we've got air show, fireworks, like all these things. And for that reason, asking, an older dog that's had set routine and set plan to all of a sudden, learn to go out a doggy door on their own, it's most likely not going to happen. So what I did with them is we retrained these older dogs over 10 years old. I think they're both 13 to go potty on a patch of grass. So we created what we call as a potty station. And that can be anything. So when I first got Bentley, when he was a puppy, I had all cement. And for some reason in my head, I was never going to potty train them to go inside because I knew he was going to be a big dog. So I was already like, no way. But I didn't have any grass anywhere near me. So I used a baby pool and put bark chips in,
I've
those.
seen that
Yeah.
or like the larger litter pellets, like almost like what you would
Yeah.
have for a rabbit. I've seen that.
Yeah. So creating a potty station is what would be the next plan, is that we're going to retrain the dogs to go potty in a specific area, an area that's more comfortable for your dog. So in this case for Jen, we said, let's potty train them to go on a grass patch in the garage because they would have access to that. So no matter how bad the weather is, hot or cold, or if there's loud noises, the dogs were always going to be safe and they had a designated place to go. And then training them to go there, we just go back to going, okay, so how do we train a puppy to go potty on a certain station? And so Julie, so jump in for that.
So one, setting your timer. You want to be able to take them out on an exact schedule. so that you're not missing any cues, or we're not depending on them to hit it right away without any help. Also, I will just say that, especially with a lot of puppies or even older dogs, they don't like to go into the potty area necessarily by themselves at first. They might be a little apprehensive.
Yeah.
They might be like, I don't know if this is the right place. So going out and being in that area can be really comforting and helpful with them. Not like staring them down, but just providing that safety of like, I got your back, go do your thing. And if it's a larger area, we're going to go to placing them on a leash and a harness, clipping them, and then especially taking them, like, pick them up or lead them over to the exact spot that you want them to go potty, and wait, sort of, kind of not look at them, stand around, kind of do a little jig. If it doesn't happen within 10 to 15 minutes, take them back inside and then repeat 10 to 15 minutes later. So typically I'll do every half an hour for dogs that are over a year, but if they're much younger, or if we're trying to figure out what their schedule is, I'll go every 10 to 15 minutes, and it's on my phone. I have it, just boom, 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 so that I don't lose focus at that point.
So making sure we manage our time really well. And then the other thing is just reinforcing it. So having yourself all set up. So a lot of times, like when we go over to someone's house, we're telling them, okay, go grab your urine, destroyer stuff, have your poop bags ready, trash can, and wipes just in case, and your reinforcement, a container of treats right there in that area, so that you can reinforce the behavior that you actually want to happen. So
Keeping them on leash or managed until they actually go to the bathroom. Some people will let their dogs out or let them into a space, and the puppies just want to play and they want to run around and they forget to go to the bathroom. So making sure they're either on leash or in a pen, and you're standing there with them until they go, then a toy or a treat, or I make a big deal like, yay, you did it. Even if they're 4 or 5 years old, I still am clapping and cheering for them that they did it in the correct spot and they did it on time. So
perfect. So, I mean, that's pretty much for a senior dog. It's reestablishing a new routine, potty, reinforcing it. And then eventually, once you start to see your senior dog travel on their own to go to the bathroom, you can then start to remove the management that you've set up for that. So management is sometimes something that you just put temporarily up, and then eventually it can go away. And other times, you know what, it might be something that you just kind of keep as part of your home, just to make sure that the dog's always, in that contained area.
especially if you have multiple people or the family is on the different
Mm,
page as to where the dogs are supposed to go potty. I mean, if we all can't all be consistent and do it the exact same way, the management is going to make sure that your dog is not having accidents when you're not able to actually have your eyes on them. So
very good. Okay, question number 2 is another potty one, and it's going to be very similar, but we will go ahead and address it. So this is for a 20-week-old puppy still having accidents in the home. The dog is crate trained, male, obviously not neutered yet. Well, not obviously, but not neutered yet. A large dog. I think the dog was close to 30 pounds or 35 pounds and was going to be a very big dog. And the dog is potty trained, but not consistently, not reliably. And the dog does have free reign of the home when the owner is home. But while the owner is home and busy, like on the computer, the dog is having accidents in the home. So go ahead, Julie. So what do we start off with first?
freedom is earned. So only when I can trust, when I really know it's happened in front of me every single time and we've got a consistent schedule, that's when I'm okay with giving full access to the house, especially when you're there. But again, if they're making a little bit progress and then having an accident and then making a little bit of progress, there's a lot of confusion there. So we need to go back to setting up a safe place, a puppy management area or dog management area that they can be contained, whether it's their crate or an exercise pen or a very specific place. And having them go out, just like we said earlier, on a schedule. They can still be out in the house. You just want to make sure that they have pottied for real right in front of you. And then you can bring them in and either have them on a leash so you can keep them close, or play in the living room for 10 minutes. But then they need to continue to be managed so that it's not happening randomly. We can't figure out the order. There's so many variables that come with potty training.
Yeah, I would say that if the dog is still having accidents, the dog should not have any alone time off leash or out of contained area. So even if you're on the computer, your dog is tethered to you. If you are going to the kitchen, you've asked your dog to lay on a bed and you're backing up watching your dog. This will give you, so once you're at a, like, reliably having your dog go to the bathroom in the correct spot for about 2 weeks is what our like goal is, 2 weeks, then you can start to open up approximately, I'd say, 6 feet by 6 feet of space. If you want to have, like, at 20 weeks old, the dog's like had a few weeks, you can say, okay, let me open up 6 by 6 and let's see if this space, can you not have accidents in this space when you're alone? And then wait 2 weeks and then open up a little bit more. What Julie and I like, our dogs that come back to us, 4, 5, 6 months, and even a year later, these dogs that are house and potty trained do get full access to an entire area. But typically it all starts off in a crate, an X pen, and then it just gradually, the longer they're here, the more space they're going to get. And so rules are no accidents. So no chewing on anything. So I've had Miss Little Lucy here has been chewing up her grass patch. So for me, she is not trained enough for me to like assume that she's not going to do that. So she's still chewing because she's teething and all of that. So don't give your dog so much space. And if you have, even when your dogs are older, there's things that could happen that might set you back. So just go back. Okay, what do I need to do to prevent that from happening again?
And at 20 weeks old, especially for a male, we're starting to look at the presence of other dogs, the activity, possible marking. That's where they're hiking their leg and they're spreading their scent. It's early, but it's still pre-pubescent. And so the hormone changes and the, puberty hitting, especially with male dogs, we want to look if it's stress and marking versus a medical issue versus I just don't know where I'm supposed to go.
Yeah, that could be true too. They didn't know. I love how you said go out with your dog, because a lot of people will just like open the sliding door.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when it was raining, they're like, yeah, go out there. But the reality is your dog wants you to go with them most of the time. Don't hover. So don't stand over them and like, come on, hurry up. It's freezing out. That's my in my head. I'm like, it's cold, hurry up. But don't hover, just wait, and then be ready to reward them, to reinforce
and I see
that.
a lot of people, I love that you mentioned the sliding door. I see a lot of people that get a little bit of success with potty training and then they just start leaving the door open. Don't trust that they are going to do it on their own until they can do it right there in front of you and come all the way back and sit and, let you know that they just went. So
that's true, because you know what, on this note here, it said, I let my dog go potty. They went outside to go potty. And when they came back, he had an accident.
Yeah.
So that's most likely is the dog did go outside, but maybe didn't go potty because you weren't there.
Right. Dog doors and sliding doors are great as they get older, but you want 100% success with the doors closed so that also we build that muscle strength, because the bladder is a muscle. They have to learn how to hold it. And not everywhere you go is going to have a doggy door or an open door. And I run into that problem a lot when dogs who have instant access come over. I can't leave the door open. It's cold, it's windy, it's, we keep the heat on, all of those things. So don't assume until you know for sure they're okay doing that on their own.
It's not like when you're training a child to go potty, you can like you hear them going in the toilet,
right,
they can flush it, totally different. Okay, next question is, Dog reactive towards people coming into the home. Okay, so this one is the dog is 4 years old, 3 or 4 years old. Delivery person's coming in the home, and lately, over the last few months, the dog is reacting to them by lunging. First, it was barking, then it was barking and lunging, and then it was barking, lunging, and going towards them. And now they actually got the pants leg of the delivery person and literally tried to, pull them. The dog is small. So,
I know you have been bitten by small and large dogs, and it hurts every time.
yeah.
So I don't care what size your dog is. It hurts all the time.
So this isn't all of a sudden, but it has progressively gotten worse to now there was actual contact. So Julie, when we're looking at before we get into the bite, series, can you just kind of go over the levels of the communication that a dog would go through to try to tell you to give me some space?
Absolutely. So, one, your dog doesn't want to bite you or other people. That's just naturally, that's the very last choice that they have. But there's what we call like a ladder of communication that your dog might be trying to tell you, I'm uncomfortable, I'm stressed, I'm fearful, I can't handle this situation. They might be lip licking, something so subtle that you really have to pay attention to, or wide eyes, or even scratching when they haven't been scratching all day. There might be yawning. These are all them trying to say, I need more space, I need more time, I'm not comfortable. And if no one's going to listen to me, I'm going to take care of this myself.
Yeah.
Right. So they feel like, well, mom doesn't care. Or if you're yelling at them because they're barking and you're like, no, or stop, or shut up, which is, it's a human part of life. We all shout, we shout sometimes for no reason. Don't feel like you're the worst person ever. But your dog may be thinking, okay, mom doesn't have my back, or I'm stressing mom out, so I should take care of this, which is where we get into lunging and like nose punching, and then ultimately a bite, or, trying to pull on clothes because they're trying to get that person away the fastest way they know how, which is with their teeth.
So had we jumped in sooner to prevent this from happening, the dog usually doesn't escalate all the way to the contact. It's lack of communication, lack of listening to the dog that tells the dog, okay, I'll take care of it myself. All right. So if that is the scenario, so we typically want to start with a vet check of some kind, because we want to know what is deeply rooted. Why is this dog asking for more space? This is typically a fear reaction. Very rarely do they say, come on, let's play, and they drag the, person into the house. But there could be an overly excited dog that does that, but it's typically, give me space. You're not listening. Okay, here I go. So you have to ask, why is this dog feeling this way? What's going on? If a dog is in any kind of discomfort, irritation, teeth, stomach, if you notice the poop is all of a sudden a little runny, their digestive system, if they're starting ongoing arthritis, any of reason at all, or even overly tired, right, could be a reason why. Or if it's coming from the pet parent. So if you've got a dog that's 3, 4, 5 years old, they know their human really well, and they're connected typically. So if you are stressing out when someone's at the door, maybe you have to, get up quickly and change. I kind of get like, oh my God, someone's here, I got to go, So if you're feeling like that, your dog can take on that feeling and take it on. So vet check is always a good place to start, to just clear and say, okay, we're good there.
Yeah.
Next is management. So how and why do we prevent this from happening? What is the purpose of that? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, just like we were talking about before, in your dog's mind, when I say they're taking care of it, it means that the behavior is working. So if they bark or lunge or bite and someone backs up, like they naturally, like anyone would, if they walk away, or even, you know, the mailman, they come up, they drop the mail, they walk away, and the dog is barking in their head, I did it. That is what led to that. They're not critically thinking through the problem. They're like, every day I bark and the mailman goes away, so it works. So if we've gotten into that routine of, when I make these big displays, it gets me what I want, even accidentally, your dog is associating that with their behavior. So even the mailman, we know he's going to keep going down the houses, but in your dog's brain, it's only because they're barking. So we want to make sure that we don't have that one-to-one connection of, I charged the door, they leave the door, it worked, now I'm going to keep practicing this.
Beautiful. And you guys, if you have any questions, even if you're watching the recording later, drop it in the comments wherever you're watching that, and we will keep an eye on those comments. So then you go, okay, so now that you've set up some kind of management for the door in that scenario, someone walking through the front door, a couple of things you could do is put a piece of sticky note or a big, huge thing over your doorbell, front door, let them know dog is in training, you know, text me instead. If the presence of a doorbell and all of that is triggering your dog, go ahead and eliminate that, pull out the doorbell and figure out a way for them to communicate that they're there. Number one. The other thing is that no one's going to open the door that you don't know. Like the delivery guy is not going to open the door. You're going to have to open the door, which gives you enough time to put your dog in a contained area. So we go back to having your dog is not trained, right? For whatever reason, we were going backwards for a second. So find a contained area where you could put your dog, put them on leash. You can, do all those things to prevent them from actually moving forward. So training plan, Royce, is once you've got management in place, what do you want to do? So what is the training plan when we're talking to someone about that? And it has to do with changing the way they feel about that person coming in. So changing association. Currently, they see this person walking in the door and they feel this way, and then the dog acts this way. So now we have to go about changing that way. And that goes into a training call that we call, desensitizing the sight of that person, changing how they feel, and counter conditioning, or giving them another response, having them feel from stress and fearful to, oh, wow, actually, I like when people come over because they always bring me cookies. All right. Real briefly, because we're not going to go through a full plan, but just really briefly, just add a little bit onto that, Julie.
Yeah, so thinking about, instead of what you hate your dog is doing, what do I want my dog to do when someone comes in the door? So I'm thinking, come and find me. I'm thinking go to your bed or grab a toy to put in your mouth. So we want to work on that skill individually and then start to add in the door as the trigger. So there's a lot of parts of the door that can trigger the dog, like
that's so true. Yeah.
The lock, the doorbell, someone gently knocking, someone even just walking up to the door, their hearing is incredible. So sometimes the cue for them to overreact is something as simple as the door being opened. So we, like you said, desensitize that part, train a behavior individually. Go to your bed. Awesome. Go get a toy, come to mom, whatever it is, and utilize that one behavior over and over in multiple environments before we add in the door part. The door opening means grab a toy. The door opening means I'm going to go and find mom because I'm scared.
Yeah. If your dog has a bite history and you want to have people come over, management and having a double form of management, meaning if that management breaks down, have another one in place, is going to be a way of life for you guys, just to prevent some major accidents and lawsuits from happening in your home. And it's something that we do set up, like we do recommend setting up in your home so that you just don't go there. Yeah.
Especially here in California. I mean, you know this, I know this. There's some really extreme language. Even if your dog knocks someone over by jumping on them, you could be liable under your homeowner's insurance to pay for those medical bills. So if they scare someone at the fence, if they, knock them down because they were excited and jumping on them, if they nose punch them, if they go up and hit them with their nose, even just as a warning, all of those things under California law could come with a fee, a bite warning, and possibly your dog being taken away from you. And we definitely don't want that happening. So
No. Okay. I would keep management in place until the dog is trained in alternative behavior. Still not reliable. If your dog has made contact with someone, most likely in their head it's work, because the person's probably jerked their leg out. And take some time. If this is you and you still want some more support, recommend booking a call, because there are some details to all of that kind of training.
there's
But number one,
fights and different kinds of reactions and different levels. And so it does get very case by case, but that's one of those things we really want to talk to you one-on-one to make sure we have all of the background information.
Yeah. All right. We got a live question here. I think this might be Davey.
This is Davey. Yeah, he texted me this earlier.
Okay. So I'll read the question. So crating a dog. So putting a dog in a either contained area or just a crate. What is the advisable time frame for achieving calm behavior and letting the dog rest enough for adolescent dogs, for adult dogs? So let's see. How many months is, I'm assuming he's talking about Sammy.
Sammy, I think he can confirm or deny this, but I think he's 8 to 10 months old almost.
I think he's younger than that.
Is he younger than that? I feel like he's getting to be a big.
He might be a 7 or 8 months.
Boy. Yeah, here, let me. Well, he'll confirm or deny that, but 9 months. I was right. 8 to 10 months.
Okay.
So, 9 months.
So 9 months. Calculation wise, if we look at it, all depends. So every dog's different, every breed's different. But if we were just looking at like the normal calculations that we give a puppy parent, it's 1 month over the amount of time that would be to be alone. So for people that used to work all day long, I would say for this question, let's answer this a little bit differently. So the question is based about calm behavior and letting the dog rest enough.
So that's a really good.
The dog's not neutered either. So that's another thing. Not neutered. He's got 2 dogs in the household. Sammy's high energy. He's pure into adolescence. So he's out of the pre-adolescence completely into the adolescent stage right now. So he's full on hormones and things like that. I would actually put him, on if you're noticing a lot of erratic behavior and you're noticing like the triggers that are kind of like over the top. So the same thing that just happened. Diane asked me this morning. This is so funny. And she's like, if you count how many times your dog kind of gets triggered. So I want you to answer this in a second, Julie, about the cortisol levels and what that means and stacking and going back to baseline. But every time, if you could say how many times your dog overreacts in a day, whether it's barking because they're playing and excited, barking because, they got to finally go outside, jumping, all of those things that are considered in the orange and red zone when we look at like body language and things like that, count how many times that's happening in a day and how many days in a row it's happening, how long it's happening. If you notice a pattern where there's quite a few episodes going on, you're going to want to take some longer naps, having your dog take some longer timeouts. How long? It all depends. I typically, so like for Diane, I said, try to get your dog to go at a 3 or 4 hour nap at least once a day, because they get up early, they do something. And then I said, just a whole afternoon of nap, because then the rest of the evening they're up. So cortisol levels.
Cortisol is the hormone that replaces adrenaline. So when our dogs are overreacting, and when she's saying barking and doing these things, it's not like bark, bark, and then they stop. It's barking to the point to where they're not responding to food, their name, they're just kind of going crazy over, they're spinning, they're jumping, things that they're just not responding to anything. That means that they're over threshold. So when we hit that point, sometimes we call it the red line, that's adrenaline. Immediately, cortisol replaces adrenaline, and it's a long-term substitution, of inflammation. Actually, that's what cortisol causes in the body, and it can take between 8 hours and or 3 days. It just depends on the level of reaction and how frequently they're hitting that red line. So we want to give them a good amount of time to actually bring their adrenaline down. It depends on how fast your dog recovers as well. Some dogs can get over it in an hour and they're falling back asleep. Some dogs pace the entire, Stash, Amber, if you're watching, I've never seen Stash stop moving outside of the crate. He just, not in a bad way, he's not doing anything wrong, but he's just pacing constantly, which means he doesn't have the ability to lower that adrenaline, that cortisol on his own.
Yeah.
So that's where
that's Dante. That's actually the adult dog. There
you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So how you have to create that, you have to help them take a nap. It's like a child that can't get themselves to sleep. So then you say, okay, how can I do that? I'm going to give you a safe space. I'm going to put some music on. I'm going to lower the lights. I'm going to put you in another room where you can be, alone. Or maybe that means, if that's too stressful, is you resting and sitting down on your laptop next to them. So getting them to be able to rest would be really important for behavior, for calming and being able to then turn off, and then so that they can be more well-mannered in the way that you'd like. So
especially if you have multiple dogs, even if one of your dogs is super calm, that presence could still be overexciting your other dog. They think it's playtime. I'm going to bother you. Let's go and run in the backyard. And so, especially for an adolescent dog, they just want to go, 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 which can become bothersome and conflicting with both dogs. Yeah. So,
and then refrain from using the word forcing them to crate, instead encouraging. So finding a balance between, I know you need a nap, but I know that you're not comfortable. How can I make you comfortable? So if you come from a place of, I can tell you're not feeling safe right now, what do you need from me? Kind of parenting, your demeanor and the way that your intentions are with your dog are going to be different than, I got to force you to take a nap because Yo and Julie said take a nap. So
I think
come with it.
Said in the text that he's doing 2 1-hour naps, and 1 hour really isn't enough for a dog to calm down. It takes 45 minutes for them to actually hit REM sleep. And then every time you get some water or go to the bathroom or open and close the door, that's waking them up again. So 1 hour, if you wake them up 2 times, then they only got, maybe 5 seconds of eyes closed. And I can tell you from experience, that's so frustrating. And you're going to get up even more angry and upset than when you went down. So
I mean, I know Dante and I know Sammy and Davey, that they're doing really well on their training. I would say, start off with a 2-hour mark, Davey, and progress to 3, if not a 4-hour nap a day. You guys just go, go, go all the time. And if you actually do less, you'll probably find that you'll have better results. So do less, Davey.
Especially because you're home as well. If you work from home, you may be inadvertently waking them up just by walking around. So you might try 2 naps with a potty or a little break in between, like a 2 hours, working your way up to that big 3 or 4 hour nap.
Yeah. Most adult dogs, like at the end of the day, like adult dogs need usually one thing that goes on in the morning, about 45 minutes, and one thing in the evening, and then 2 potty breaks. And that's life. Like when we tell pet parents, this is what it's going to look like. We fast forward, 1.5 to 2 years old. It's, that is your commitment at the, I'd say, I mean, it's sometimes less, but typically that's what I would say, what you can look for.
Even wild dogs, a study that was done on street and wild dogs that live out in the natural environment without ever being intervened by humans, they found that they sleep 12 to 14 hours a day on their own, meaning we, the humans, are trying to just like run our dogs out or keep them up or do activities with them when that's really not what they're made for. Their body is supposed to sleep the majority of the day. So,
How much does Opal sleep?
oh my God, so much. I would say she probably sleeps a good 16 to 18 hours. She's 6 and she's a big dog, but she also understands that my schedule is pretty hectic during the day. So we do something small in the morning and something bigger at night. But I mean, all day she's on our bed and just happy that we're leaving her alone.
Same with Bentley. He sleeps, I'd say, close to 18, 20 hours a day. And then when we work, it's mental or physical, but then it's pretty much.
I know that she actually walks away from us and puts herself to bed.
Wow.
So I know that's what she needs. And I'm listening to my dog like, okay, you want to lay down? Go lay down. That's great.
All right. So let us know if that was helpful, if that answered your question as much as we could. All right. Next question. Adult dog resource guards, but adolescent dog knows how to get adult dog riled up to engage with him to play, chase, or tug. Okay. So he's using the, huh?
This is Deanie. This is Bella and Bonnie.
Oh, okay. I thought this was okay. What is the best way to resolve resource guarding behavior? So growling, lunging, and barking. So I'm assuming Bella is resource guarding?
Yes.
Okay. In the adult dog, Bella. And what is the best way to train the adolescent dog, Bonnie, to not steal the big dog's toys and food? Okay. Bonnie is probably 6 months now or 7.
He's 7 or 8 months, I think. You can.
Okay. Bella is over 2. She's well into adult. I think she might even be 3. So we still have an adolescent, pure right in the middle of adolescent, not there out of that stage yet. And then we've got an adult mature dog that is extremely brilliant and
also reactive. She has her moments where she can be overstimulated and, hits that red line. So we just have to be really conscious about what the little one is doing during that time.
Let's talk a little bit about resource guarding. So what resource guarding typically means, it means that the dog has decided that this item is theirs, right? And they're going to protect it. So if we go, okay, well, how did that start? Let's understand, where did that come from? It could be something that was passed genetically. Believe it or not, some resource guarding is passed genetically. If your dog was in a litter where all of the siblings had passed away and it was a singleton, a dog can learn no one else to share with. Yeah. They can also learn it early on just with their litter mates. Someone could have, usually when the breeders have these pups, or even if you're in a, rescue, there's not a lot of toys, and at least not one for everything. So there's limited resources, and the dogs that want things, they're going to pull those resources out. The ones that share are going to stay close by, and the other ones, those puppies take the toy and they go to the corner of wherever they're at. So it's something that they could have learned really early on. Then you take
Opal actually picked it up in adolescence from daycare because because before that, no problem, unlimited toys, unlimited space. But when you put 30 dogs and have 4 toys, she realized that if she made this big display, the dogs would back up. And then she would
I back up when Opal does it. Yeah.
Every time, except for with Cooper. Cooper is a little bit slow and he doesn't know he's supposed to back up. So it doesn't work with him. So they can chew on the same bone because she knows my reaction is not getting me what I want. So I just need to chill.
So if you go to thinking about Deanie, like barking, dog barks, and then someone backs up, right? So Bella has learned that if I do this, Bonnie backs up. So resource guarding, she wants her to ignore her toys. So she is going to, she is going to react in this way of lunging, barking, growling, mainly to tell Bonnie, hey, no, I don't want you to. And no one else is stepping in to do that for her. So Bella has learned to do that herself. Now, if we flip the switch, Bonnie has learned that when she does these things, she gets a rile out of Bella, and it causes a chase, which sometimes a puppy does just to get attention, right? Just to get that initial thing. That's why sometimes we'll see a puppy mount this big dog. We're like, oh my goodness.
Ooh,
They're trying to get that dog to turn around and go, no. And then they've got that response. So this is why it's happening. I wanted you to understand why. So how do we go about adjusting and changing the way this is going on so that nobody gets hurt? Here's the thing. If you don't put management and a treatment plan in action, this could lead to some serious bite, especially as Bonnie gets a little bit older and a little more confident. She's getting confident really quickly. This can turn on to a full-on dog fight, and one of those two dogs are going to get hurt, or at least it's going to damage their relationship.
Yeah, big time.
So management, go ahead, Julie.
Step 1, everything that is dog or they feel is theirs, pick it up. So toys, bones, water bowl, food stuff, food bowls, everything needs to be picked up so that there's never even a chance to misinterpret what the other dog is doing. Sometimes it's just them walking by and the dog feels like they need to go after them. So when you've got toys and bones, I mean, some dogs don't guard everything. So try to identify what it is that's setting her off. If it's her food bowl, if it's her bones, if it's the water bowl, there's usually a particular trigger for that. And you want to make sure those are put up completely so that they only have access to them when they are separate from each other. Right.
Some dogs have multiple things that they're going to guard because typically they learn that behavior and then they start guarding other things. So it's important to step in as early as possible to prevent that learning behavior. The other thing that we do get a lot of calls from, Julie, we haven't gotten this year, but I think it was last year and the year before, it was the guarding of people. So like a dog will resource guard one of the two pet parents, right? So someone will be on the couch petting the dog, and then someone else comes in and the dog starts to growl to get space. So resource guarding doesn't have to be things and objects. It can be people. Absolutely. So management in place. If your dog's resource guarding you, then taking the turns with the dog. So make sure you're working with one and then the other. Set up management. As far as training goes, we typically make sure that the dog has a few things: a drop, a leave it, a go to the bed, right? Go away, go over there. So those are the things that I would definitely train reliably before you can even think about putting them together. And then separating them and start to train, like, can you play with this toy and your dog's on that side of the gate and be okay with it? And if not, if you're still seeing some of those same tendencies like whale eyes, mouth closed, you're seeing that stress from her even looking while she's with her toy, you can put Bonnie back a little bit further. So
she has a great follow-up question about the management at the bottom. But the items change each time. The same item is ignored the next second, as long as I don't touch it. Yeah, you are giving it value. The moment you touch it, it becomes valuable for some reason. And of course you can't go around not touching things. We understand that. You want to pop into that?
I would say, what are so she must have multiple toys down, but they both have access to it. And then when she goes to touch it, and you know what, Deanie, now that I'm thinking about it, like, you do a lot of tricks. So it might trigger like, oh my God, are we doing a prop? Are we doing a trick now? Are you going to do a chew? Are you going to, it might be that you are giving that object on the ground some superpowers because you do so many tricks. So anything that's involving you and an object or a prop, I would still separate them and then go about putting the prop. Otherwise, cue, from over here, go get that, go put it in your toy box, like start teaching them to put their toys away on their own. And now you can have, like when I was doing resource guarding, either prevention or we were trying to modify or change, we would use like 20 tennis balls. I'm like, okay, can you really guard all 20 of these? So sometimes putting all the toys down and separating them and letting them put the toys away might work.
Yeah, Opal is novel objects. If it's been down and it's been in the house for quite a while, doesn't care about it. If it's a treat, if it's a toy, if it's something that I pick up, it then becomes the most valuable thing. So I have to be very conscious about where she is. She knows that if I touch something special, she has to go behind a gate now. And you can see it. She's like, and then she runs behind the gate to get the chew or the, frozen treat or whatever. So I know if I have 10 of the exact same thing, I can usually have them out. But the moment I pull out something from the shopping bag or a high value chew or something like that, she knows now that she has to be behind a gate to get access to it, even if it's just her food, because I don't want that even possibility of her hitting that threshold and biting through her brother's ear.
Yeah. Good. So resource guarding is a serious thing. It's not something that you want to take lightly. I would always put up management and prevent them from having any resources that are in common on the floor or where they can have access to, including a water bowl.
Yeah.
All right.
If they're together, nothing is left down. When you want to give them something, separate them. So if they want to play, they can play with each other, but leaving things out on the ground is just not an option until you can parse through what is the exact thing that they're guarding.
All right, let's go to this next one. Here, you read.
Okay. Adult dog. I think this was the continuation of that, but that's okay. Adult dog wasn't properly socialized as a puppy, so Bella, and is rather poor at adapting to new situation. Adolescent dog, Bonnie, is too well socialized and not fazed by anything. Yeah. When on walks, the adult dog, Bella, can pay attention to the leash or where I am. Okay. And when off leash, maybe this is a different person. And when off leash, he can barely comprehend what I'm asking him to do. Oh, this is Davy. He doesn't even take food sometimes because he's so distracted by what's around him. At the same time, the adolescent dog pays attention. So when I reward, it goes on from there. Yeah, so I think that this is Davy with Sammy and Dante. With that is a really great question. Having dogs that are very different in personality, in motivation, in energy levels, you've got to work with them separately.
Yeah.
And I know it's not easy.
Know.
I know it's twice the work. Trust me, I know. My dogs are the two most opposite things in the entire world. But when you're taking them on a walk, they need to walk separately. When they're playing.
Well, if that's what if your intention is to modify the behavior or get to a skill that a level of training, then separating them to actually change or modify that behavior or train is going to be something you're going to do separately.
So 2 1-hour walks, not necessarily. Remember, this was his follow-up comment. So he needs 2 1-hour walks in the morning. Not necessarily. 1 hour could be way too long for your dog that's getting overstimulated. Maybe try a 15 or a 20-minute walk, come in, get the next dog, and then.
I was going to say, yeah, so Davey, I take multiple dogs with me in the van, especially when I'm just like, oh, I'll go to a spot. I'll leave, Bentley in the car, and then I'll take one other dog out and I'll do the training. I'll put him back in. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. There's no book that says you have to go 1 hour on the box, 60 minutes. The training or walking, especially your morning training, walking, all of that stuff can all wrap up in 20 minutes and even 5 minutes sometimes. So if you did 5 minutes of heel and loose leash walking and recall, and then let them go sniff, and then go inside and give them like a stuffed Kong and then switch them out, you probably will notice a much different dog, by doing that, rather than these long, extravagant, get in the car for the half the afternoon kind of things.
It's about the quality of the time you're spending together, not the quantity. So I can get just as much out of 20 minutes with my dog as the dog walker can with an hour,
Or
because
longer.
I'm
Yeah.
there actively working. They're getting 100 repetitions. It's the same thing we see in school. High impact intervals is actually more effective in exhausting your dog's brain and body than just like cross country running, just going and going for 50 miles, because that might actually overstimulate them in the long run. So we
Yeah.
want them to learn how to get there, get aroused, get excited, and then go home and calm down. And then if they still have energy, go out for another, repetition, and then calm down. And that's what we want to teach their body to naturally do on its own, is arousal up and down.
I would say shift this for the next few days, or at least a week. Give it a whole week. Take both dogs in the car, work with one separately, set your timer, do 20 minutes of intense training or 10 minutes of intense training. Let the dog sniff, give them something to do while you switch out the dogs. And then the last 20 minutes, so that's 20, in the last 20 minutes, then you can put them on a long line each and just do a little, walk around sniffing with no intention except to let them just explore the environment.
Yeah.
So give it a try and see how that goes. All right. We are just about out of time.
These are really great questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is actually really helpful for any other age or level of dogs. So each Tuesday, we're going to be putting this together, or at least I will be committed to being here each Tuesday at 5:30 to talk about different issues that you guys are bringing up. So don't forget to post in that Facebook group, questions, troubleshooting, videos that you guys want to work on a specific training tool, because this is a new series that we're going to be working on Tuesdays at 5:30, is troubleshooting whatever the issue is that you want to work on.
There are 5 more questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a pin in them, and I'll have you answer them the following week. If you watch this on YouTube, there's chapters that'll be on there. So again, you'll be able to find your answer to any of the problems that you're having. And these are saved and they'll be uploaded to your syllabus so you can watch them later. All right. Thank you, Julie. Thank you guys for all your great questions. Let us know if it was helpful, and we will chat with you later.
Awesome. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.